Hey y'all, I got a message from my good friend Herb. He asked me to talk about vocals and vocal recording, obviously. And so I know that there are a lot of things that in the recording community we tend to focus on. That includes, especially for vocals, which microphone you're using and which compressor you're using. And I don't want to talk about either of those today because there's such a wide range of microphones and prices, and I want to talk about some of the other things that we don't focus on as much in the recording community, but that to me are just as important as what microphone you're going to choose. So the three things to consider when recording vocals are your headphone mix, your proximity to the microphone, and your compression settings. More specifically, your attack time and the amount of gain reduction. So number one, headphone mix. As a singer who also is a very anxious person, I'll admit that a bad headphone mix can really throw me off. It can prevent me from really getting into the vibe of the song. So I guess my advice or my opinion on it is that when you're getting your headphone mix together, try to notice what your attitude is toward the song while it's coming through. If you're doing a run through of the song and you find it sort of difficult to get your rhythm really tight, try turning up the rhythm section, the drums, the bass in your headphones. Maybe you just need to hear that stuff a little bit more to give you more of a cue of where the beat is. And likewise, if you find yourself pushing harder than you usually do, that might mean that you need to hear a little bit more of yourself in the headphones. If you are holding back more than usual, you usually sing louder and you're kind of being softer than normal, that might mean that your voice is too loud in the headphones, so just take that down a little bit. Either way, just giving yourself a really good headphone mix is more inspiring for the singer, and you'll get a much better performance, which is a huge part when we describe that's a great vocal recording. The performance is amazing, Number two is the proximity to the microphone, okay? So it's pretty obvious that the sound is really going to change whether you're close to the microphone or really far away. But just consider what you want out of it. Do you want more of a lo-fi kind of roomy sound? If so, standing, I'd say 3 or more feet away from the microphone will really help you get that sort of effect. If you want something that's a little bit more clean and natural and intimate, staying within a foot of the microphone is a good kind of rule of thumb there. Sometimes you want an intimate sound that's got more low end and more body. It doesn't necessarily sound natural, but can still be really intimate sounding. And in those cases, you want to get really close to the microphone. There's this thing called the proximity effect, which if you're using a cardioid microphone and you get really close to it, you hear a lot more body. If you get a little bit further away from it, your voice will start to sound a little bit more natural and the way that it sounds in real life to someone just standing in front of you. And those are all just things to consider. Think about what you want out of your vocal sound and then make adjustments accordingly. I just want to show an example of the proximity effect. As I get closer and as I get closer and as I get closer and as I get closer, you hear a lot more of the low end. That's the proximity effect. The last thing is compression. I want to talk about attack time and I want to talk about gain reduction. If you don't know much about compression, get to know this tool. Do some research on it because it's such an important tool. One of my mentors, Al, he said, the greatest mixers in the world only need 2 tools, EQ and compression. So get to know this tool because it's really awesome and it's really useful. I don't want to go into too much detail on what it does or how it works, but just do a little research. What I'm about to say will make a lot more sense. So focusing on the attack time. As the attack time gets faster, the high frequencies start to roll off. So if you want a really bright and present kind of tone, then slow your attack time a little bit. If you want something to sit more in the background, then make your attack time faster and it'll sort of give you that effect. For a lead vocal though, most of the time I imagine you'd probably want it to be a little bit more present. That's the most important thing in the song, depending on the genre and stuff like that. If you do want your lead vocal to be present, slow your attack time down a little bit, and experiment with it. The second thing that I want to talk about is gain reduction. If you throw on a compressor and you're like, man, this does not sound better than when I just had the compressor off, take a look at your gain reduction meter. If you're hitting really, really hard, that may not be as desirable. I would say when you're first starting off, crank the threshold down a bunch and you'll get a lot of gain reduction. Kind of dial in your attack time, pull up on the threshold, and that'll kind of bring your gain reduction down a bunch. I kind of aim for anywhere between like 3 and 6 dB of gain reduction. Obviously, it really depends on the genre and what you're doing, but it's a really good starting point. So yeah, this isn't a rule of thumb. I just want to say, if you don't like the compression on the vocal, just try bringing the gain reduction down a little bit. Okay guys, thank you so much. Those are my sort of off-the-cuff feelings on some tips for vocals. Give it a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want, and check out the blog. Bye!